of Heropath. You will be taking the role of one of the heroes. As you go around the board and adventure, you will be visiting place sites, slaying monsters, and interacting with the other players as well. So while you're doing all of that, you'll be increasing your stats of your hero, eventually to be strong enough to be able to destroy and kill the dragon that is plaguing the land. So I've already set up the board here. When you start off, the dragon over here goes on the Dragon Rock 1. Your hero starts off in this little hero starting area, and then you set up a bunch of the monsters here and all the forest areas and all of the mountain areas and also the Goblin Cave, I believe it was called. And then you have your cards out here. Those have already been shuffled and set up here, and you would set it up here after you've gone ahead and either drafted the cards into your hand or did the quick setup that is in the book. So there are attributes that you will have set up from, there's a chart for each character. So the elf starts off with 4 vitality, 4 faith, no experience, 2 skill, and 1 wisdom. They also do not receive any food, but they do get 1 gold. Then you will end up with a certain amount of cards. After you draft, or if you just do the quick rules, you'll receive these cards here at random. So I have this Infernal Flame here, and I'll explain the aspects of the card. First, this little symbol up here will tell you what type of action or what type of card it is. Next here is this sun icon. It can either be a sun, a moon, or a sun and moon. And that tells you when you can use the card. Anything with a sun can be used on your turn. Anything with a moon can be used on somebody else's turn. And a sun and moon can be used, well, whenever you are able to. There is also this circle around the card. Some cards have this circle with these 2 little arrows on there. And if you have a card with that, that means the card is multi-use. So that means you will continue to use it. For equipment here, I was able to get this Warrior's Helmet, which excuse me, is some equipment. And of course can be used on your turn. And it's always available. And then there is this Recall Potion. Now if you notice that this one is on your turn, but it's once you use it, it's a single use. And it does say single use right on there. Don't have any companions, but I do have 1 ability here that I'm able to use, and it's multi-use here. And that is Send Sand. So as you start off the game, you have nothing equipped on your character, but you do have these cards available. If you meet the requirement on the cards, for example, this Infernal Flame, the magic card here, it says flames will flicker on the weapon. It is to be placed and used on 1 sword or battle axe. So first I have to have a sword or a battle axe to use this flame, and it'll increase your hero power by 1, and it's for owners of Wisdom 3 and up. Well, if you look at my character right now, I only have a Wisdom of 1, so I can't use that even if I had the appropriate weapon. And you will be leveling up and you'll be gaining these skills as you explore the board here. So all of the characters, I just threw down the elf, and I also put the fighter, I believe, or the warrior. Is it the warrior or the fighter? Hang on 1 second. Grab the board here. So yes, I have the board right here. It is the warrior board here. And if you look, the boards are all the same here. They'll have where you put all of your attributes, your supply, places where you'll put cards that are equipped to your hero, and then a little turn explanation of everything you can do on your turn. And then when the dragon activates, it explains what you do when the dragon goes ahead and activates. So as I said, you start off in this corner here with all of your fellow compatriots. And you're going to start moving around this board and exploring and seeing what you can find. So, if you look at the card here, or look at the player board, that explains all the different actions that you can take. So, traveling and resting are the most common things that you'll be doing. So if you travel, you can go between 1 and 4 spaces. Once you stop on a location, your travel is done. So if you only go 3 spaces, you can't take another action and then continue with that one last space. Whatever you take between 1 and 4, that's how much you're going to be able to do. You can collect and drop stuff in the space that you're on, and you can do that while you're moving. If you want to stop and you happen to land on, let's zoom in here, a place with this castle symbol here, that is a place site. And a place site will be drawn from a bag, and they look like this. So, let's zoom out here. So, they are these 3-dimensional cards that have, these mine have these 3D printed caps on there. So the card is folded over. So if you were, let's just say that my elf decided to go just 1, 2, and stop right there. And because they stopped at a place site location, you go ahead and draw from the bag. And let's just say I drew this priestly order location. So the priestly order location will go right here on the board. And it is actually very nice because it pops up and everybody can see what that location is. Now, everybody will also have one of these place site boards. Can I zoom out more? Yes. So they'll have one of these place site boards that'll explain all of the different locations on the board. And if you're looking for a particular item, this breaks it down by the skill that you're looking for or whatever you're trying to find. So let's look here what the priestly order will do. So I should go ahead and say that that was what the travel action would do. Another action I could do is I could visit. So if I wanted to visit this priestly order site, I can go ahead and visit it and encounter it however it says on this little board. So on here, the priestly order, it is a skill area. So if I go and visit here, I'll receive between 1 and 2 skills. And I will pay between 1 and 2 experience, however much I want. So if I pay 1 experience, I'll get 1 skill. In addition, I also have to pay 1 gold and 1 food to the order. So you're donating to the order, saying, hey, here's some gold, here's some food, and I'm going to give you some of my experience, and they'll go ahead and raise up your skill. And that's what a lot of these locations do. It's take some to gain some. So you'll have to figure out the balance and try to figure out how to raise up the attributes that are on this board and try to figure out a balance of getting everything that you need to be able to do what you want to do and eventually be able to defeat the dragon. So that was travel and visit. Another thing that you can do on your turn is you can rest. So if you rest, you'll get back 1 of your vitality, or you'll gain 1 vitality if you can, up to 5, but you'll gain 1 vitality. If you happen to have any food available, you could also eat 1 of those food, and you go ahead and discard that back to the pile, and you'll get 2 more vitality, but you're going to eat once per rest. If you want to, you can go ahead and search, and you can roll this search die, and that will find you something. You can possibly find some food, find some gold, or you might be able to find some fortune, or you might be able to find some magic and some gold. But there's various things that you can find while you're resting. While you're resting also is one of the times that you can change around your character's items. So if I take a rest action now, I would be able to, if I had a weapon or if I had any kind of items here that I wanted to put onto my elf, I could go ahead and move those from my resources over to my equipment. And the same thing, I could move them from my equipment over to my resources if I want to take stuff off or put stuff on. When you're traveling, you can only cross the white borders. So if I was here and I wanted to go over and try to see what this guy was and try to do a little bit of combat, I wouldn't be able to because there's a black border here. The only way to go into a new area and a new type of terrain is to go through these gates. And these gates have a they have a little white border around them, and they have this little stone gate. And that's the only way to go through. So let's just say I was here and I decided to take one action to go right there. So once I stop, if there's a hidden enemy, and the hidden enemies all have this like little skull on them, you go ahead and you will flip that hidden enemy over. So you will see what that enemy is. So this looks like a some kind of a goblin looking guy here with a bloody machete there. So he will flip over, and I can choose to encounter him if I wanted to. So let's go ahead and do an encounter with him. So for yourself, you will go ahead and you will always roll these two hero dice. So let's go ahead and roll those here. So that is a 3 and a 1, so I have 4. Then you go ahead and you add in anything from your abilities. And I don't have any abilities that give me anything extra. If I would have had this Infernal Flame attached to a weapon, I would be able to add +1. If I was wearing this helmet, I'd be able to, again, add +1. Which actually I should have put this helmet on because this helmet says that it is for skill 2 and up. And, well, I do have enough skill to be wearing that, but I didn't put it on. I failed to do that, so I wouldn't be able to put it on now before this battle. So you'll take the 4 that you rolled here, and then you add up your total number of attributes. So we have 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 and 4 is 15. There's nothing else to add to that. Now remember, I have this skill here, and this skill actually comes into play right here. So this says you may re-roll one of your dice in a battle. Use once per turn, and it doesn't apply against the dragon. So if I want to, I can go ahead and re-roll, and it's a continuous use of that skill. So I might as well roll this 1, because I can't get any worse than a 1. So let's roll that, and we're still back at 1, so we have a total of 15. So then, looking at this guy here, you go ahead and look right on the board here, and that tells you what their attributes are. So he is just a +10. There are some other guys here that add in another die to their roll, but normally they only just roll 1 die. So he will roll this 1 lone die, and he will add 10 to his total. So remember, I have 15. Go ahead and roll him up, and he got 3, so he has 13. So I defeat that creature. So if you look right on here, oh, excuse me, that wasn't the encounter. That is a battle. I messed that up. So there would have been a pop-up on the screen saying this is the battle action, not the encounter action. But it was a battle action. So if you are victorious in a battle action, you go ahead and you gain 1 experience point and 1 fortune. And then also the bad guy will go on to, right up here, we'll go on to the scale of evil. And I'll explain the scale of evil in just a second. If I would have tied, I still defeat the enemy because we both did a killing blow, but I was able to defeat him. But I would still gain the experience, still gain the fortune, but I would lose 1 vitality. And then if I just lost outright, I would just lose 1 vitality. Now if I tried to fight him again, and if I lost again, I would still lose the vitality, but I would also gain an experience point, which is kind of good because you're not really losing that much. And if you have it to lose, you must try to get that experience up. So it's kind of sometimes a good idea to try to go ahead and fight the enemy again if you do lose. So, with that successful battle, I go ahead and I gain an experience point, and then I gain one of these fortune cards. So if you go ahead and flip over the fortune card and see what fortune we receive. So this is a crystal ball. It is an accessory. I get to use it many times here. So you may glance at 1 hidden enemy once per turn from anywhere. It can be sold, which means the crystal ball can be sold, during a visit to the Druid's Cave or Witch's Den for 3 gold. So if I want to, I can go ahead and sell this at those locations for a pretty penny, or a pretty gold piece, or 3 pretty gold pieces actually. So that is actually pretty cool. So whenever you gain an item, that immediately goes into your resources. It's never immediately equipped if it is an equipable item. So that goes right over here into my equipment. Now, your resources do have a limit to the number that you can have. You can only have up to 5. So if at the end of your turn, one of your slots has 1 too many things in it, or many too many things in it, you will go ahead and discard down, so that way you only have 5 in each of those slots. Now, encounter, which my mistake, I said the wrong term there. So let's say the warrior here decided to come over into my area on his turn. He can go ahead and he can encounter me. So as long as you're on a road space, and a road space is any space that does not have an icon on it or a badge. It's just a plain space. And there's no enemies on that space, because enemies can pop up throughout the game into different spaces. But as long as there's nothing else there, just another hero, you can go ahead and do an encounter. So you can do thievery. You can get 1 card, 1 gold, 1 food, of your choice. So if you want food or gold, they'll just go ahead and fork it over. If you ask for a card, though, it is the player who is being encountered's choice. So it's their choice of what they give you from them. So sometimes encounters aren't all that good unless they only have a few things on them. And then you might be like, hey, you only have a sword on you, and guess what? I'm encountering you. Give me your sword. So if you are in a safe area, which let me show you here on the board here. So a safe area is an area like this with a wall icon on there. You are safe from other players trying to do anything to you. So they're not able to take any of those items from you. If you are in an area that has a place site, you're able to do the snatching action, which just takes a gold or a food, but no cards. So as you're traveling around this board and defeating enemies, they are going to go on to this scale of evil. Now the scale of evil will hold 1 defeated enemy per player. So right now I have a 2-player game out here. So every location will hold 2 of those little tokens there. So once 2 is gone there, the next enemy to be defeated will go on to the next level. Now starting with level 2, and level 2 has the big flame on it, that's your indicator. Once you go onto level 2, you immediately stop your turn, and then the dragon has a turn in the middle of the player's turn that defeated that enemy. The first thing that's going to happen is that each player, the player who killed the enemy, and then the next player in turn, so you actually only do this twice, will go ahead into the bag, and they will pull out a place site at random, and they're going to go ahead and place that 7 or more spaces away from them on one of the sites with a place site badge on there. So if I was the elf, I could place this place site way over there. And let's draw one for the warrior here. And they drew the marketplace. And they can put the marketplace, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, no, they can go way over here. So, just off camera there. They can go ahead and place that right there. And by the way, that was the blacksmith that I put out for the other player. So those will go out. And then they have these extra hidden enemy tokens here. And then you can go ahead and you can place those out. Again, up to 7 spaces away from yourself. So what's really handy here is if this happens and you happen to be spread out across the board, so let's say the elf was way up here and the warrior was way down there. Well, if the warrior's smart, he's going to go ahead and he's going to take this enemy. He's going to place it right there onto the space with the elf. Because at the beginning of the elf's turn, if there is a hidden enemy in their space, it's going to flip over and they have to either battle it or they have to try to evade it. Then the active player is going to go ahead and roll this little terrain die. So this terrain die is going to determine, because the dragon over here is going to take flight and fly around the kingdom. And this is going to determine where that dragon is just going to go ahead and scorch the land. So we're going to go ahead and roll up this die here. Whoop, rolled it off camera, sorry. But it landed in this little plains area, I guess you would say. So anywhere that there is that plains area, the dragon is going to go ahead and scorch all of that land. So any player that happens to be in that same land type is going to go ahead and take 1 vitality worth of damage. So our poor elf, if our elf was way up there, they would end up taking 1 damage. Our warrior that's down here in this forest area is completely safe. But if the warrior had been 1 space up, that is unfortunately the little plains area, so they would take that damage. And then lastly with the dragon, the active player gets to pick up that dragon, and you're able to move the dragon to any one of the 3 dragon areas. So there is the Dragon Rock 1, Dragon Rock 2 way over here, and then Dragon Rock number 3 in that far corner. You don't have to move the dragon if you don't want to. So I'm going to go ahead and actually leave the dragon right there. But the dragon still does a scorching of the land and everything. Now, note, wherever the dragon is, if you look, the dragon is actually on a volcano, and the volcano is surrounded by these areas that have these little flame badges on here. Whenever you enter an area with one of those flame badges, you take a vitality damage because it's erupting, and I imagine the dragon is spitting fire from those areas. There are also some other things around the board. There is, for example, this ferry, which is represented by this little raft right here. You can hop on the ferry and you can go sailing down the river if you want to and hop off on either side of the area, as long as there isn't a black border like the mountains right here. So you're able to use that to go around the map if you wanted to. Also, there are a couple places on the board that have this hot air balloon. So if you want to hop on the hot air balloon, you're going to roll the... actually, it's going to be a different die in the game, I believe, but it's essentially the same die that the dragon uses to scorch the area. You go ahead and you roll that die up, and it's going to tell you where or what type of land you can go ahead and land the hot air balloon. Because with a hot air balloon, you know where you're taking off, but you don't always know where you're going to land. So that will determine where you end up with the hot air balloon, but it's a really great way to get across a good area if you're trying to get all the way across the map. Hopefully you roll what you need. When you feel like you are strong enough to go ahead and defeat the dragon, you go ahead and you make your way to an adjacent space to the dragon. So let's just say my elf was right here. They had already defeated whatever that was. And they're going to go ahead and try to take on the dragon. So for her to take on the dragon, it's going to be a regular normal battle. So you're going to roll your 2 yellow dice. You're going to go ahead and add up your attributes, add up everything equipped to you, and add up any abilities or anything else that gives you any more bonuses. And you're going to roll those up. Then for the dragon rolls both dice, and you're going to add 15 to that total. And you will try to defeat the dragon. If you defeat the dragon, you are the winner of the game. Now, if you're playing in more than a 2-player game and you want to know who was second, third, etc., you go ahead and you add up your attributes, and you see who has the most. Whoever has the most is second place, then third place, and so on. But that is Heropath.
Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Pull up a chair at punchboardmedia.com.
So that is a brief explanation of Heropath. This is a pretty cool game, and it is going to be on Kickstarter, but I wanted to share my thoughts with you. First of all, I did enjoy this game. This is something that I liked. I like the RPG aspect of it, and it's something that I believe that people that like that genre will enjoy. The leveling up of the characters is fun, and trying to figure out the progression and trying to figure out where you need to go, because different locations give you different things, and trying to figure out the puzzle of where to give and take and how to do all of that is enjoyable. I did enjoy the way the locations were with the 3-dimensional cards. So they'll go on the board, and they feel like they kind of pop out of the ground, kind of like in the new Legend of Zelda, how the shrines pop up out of the ground. That's kind of how it feels. So you have this like 3-dimensional look. This is something that's interesting if you're playing with a lot of people, or you're playing at a big game night. People might come around and kind of look at the game because it has this really interesting 3D aspect of the game. Now, everything I had was prototype parts, but the sculpts that I have for the game, for the characters, for the dragon and everything, they look really good. They look like they'd be really fun to paint, so you could really go in there and customize them, or paint them according to what the player boards have on them. That is something that is really nice. If you're into painting your miniatures, that'd be a really great way to get some practice in, or just go ahead and paint them and customize your game. Back to what I was saying about the RPG aspect of it, I can see the people that don't enjoy the RPG aspect of it can feel like this game is a grinding game, because it can at a point start to feel like that. You're just trying to get these levels, you're trying to expand stuff, you're trying to figure out where you need to go ahead and gain the stuff you need to gain. So if you're not a big fan of grinding in a regular RPG, this is something that you might not enjoy in this style of game. When I played in a 2-player game, however, the game only lasted about an hour. We were learning the rules of everything. So after setup and everything, it took about an hour to play, and we were able to actually defeat the dragon at a fairly low level with just the luck of the dice. So you never know. You can always try to go and try to defeat the dragon early if you think you might be able to do it. So you don't really have to play out. You don't have to raise that scale of evil all the way up. Because remember, as you're raising that scale of evil up, which is something I failed to say in the regular video, that also adds to the strength of all the monsters. So when you fight a monster, you also add in the number on the scale of evil. Same with the dragon. You add in that number on the scale of evil. So everything's getting stronger the longer the game goes on. But also it scales, since every player affects how many of those tokens go into the scale itself. So each number can hold a certain number depending on the player count. But if this looks like something that you would enjoy, down below I have a link for their Kickstarter so that you can check it out. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and help support Cloak and Meeple. I have my Patreon on my next screen. And thanks for watching.